sure we're going. Broadcast. Still says we're waiting. Okay, yeah, we're live. So we have a good show planned up for you. We got Matt Gaetz speed running the entire Attorney General process, escalation in Ukraine, the ongoing genocide in Palestine, the pogrom in Amsterdam, Kendrick Lamar, Lady Raven, and some game awards, and the Penguin has finally been sent back. I'm your host Calvin, joined here with your other host Mike.
How you doing?
Good, joining for show number 3. I don't know. I guess let's just jump right into it. So first up on the docket is Matt Gaetz. There's a couple developments this week. One, I mean, they're both kind of funny. So let me pull this up. Let me pull up the first one here. Where
Gatesgate.
Yeah, he was hacked. An unknown person accessed copies of confidential testimony in the lawsuit and allegations of sexual misconduct. The documents accessed included sworn testimony from the woman who claimed to have had a sexual encounter with Gaetz as a minor, and a second woman who testified she witnessed it, according to a report by New York Times, which cited an unidentified source. I'm just quoting this Reuters article here. The person accessed a computer file shared among lawyers involved in a lawsuit. There is no indication the documents have been published, and the person's motive is unclear. What do we think? What do we think is happening with that? I mean, we know what happened a couple days later, but do we think that testimony was getting out one way or another? Because I know the whole thing was that he resigned immediately so that the house ethics would stop looking into him. And then he was so that the house ethics would stop looking into him, but then they were going to release it all to the Senate, which usually doesn't happen, but they have to then confirm them. So okay, they need to hear this. So then that was the whole thing.
Yeah, well, and then another thing we need to keep in mind as well is Matt Gaetz. He made a ton of enemies within the House long before this happened.
Oh yeah, because he ousted the speaker. He did like a whole bunch of some random crap.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I think it was sort of the confluence of, he'd already pissed off Kevin McCarthy. He'd already shown, allegedly shown multiple members of the House, explicit videos and photos of him with women. And I think it was that combined with him being appointed to, somebody with that history being elevated to that high of a position. I think some Republicans were like, yeah, we we're not going to stand for this. So yeah, I that's what I think happened.
Yeah, I mean, combine all that with the fact that he dropped out now later too. Made a lot of enemies. Trump's attorney generals have been very problematic in getting them confirmed and the stuff they've been doing immediately into it. So I feel like this was just in itself a hilarious, just immediate way to go. And it's already fallen apart. So I think he's definitely beating Jeff Sessions in funniest confirmation process.
Oh, absolutely.
So yeah, he did drop off here. We got the Guardian up summarizing all that happened. A lot of it is what we've been talking about with him taking down ousting Kevin McCarthy, the whole trafficking minors stuff, may have engaged in sexual misconduct and or illicit drug use, shared inappropriate images or videos on the House floor, misused state identification records, converted campaign funds to personal use, and or accepted bribe, improper gratuity, or impossible gift. Gaetz found sympathy from others. Lindsey Graham of South Carolina said he would urge all of my Senate colleagues, particularly Republicans, to not join the lynch mob. Give the process a chance to move forward.
Classic family values right there.
Classic Lindsey Graham. You can always count on him to just be the worst person.
Yeah.
John Cornyn of Texas a member of the Judiciary Committee, said any hearings for Gaetz would be like Kavanaugh on steroids. And this is all quoting this Guardian article here. So yeah, that's kind of how that went immediately. So
Yeah, I mean,
who do we think is replacing him?
I think I saw online the other day that
Did they?
Trump did appoint somebody else. I think it was a woman, Jody something, I believe.
Uh,
See if we can pull that up.
no. Yeah, I missed this. Yeah, we got this here. Loyalist Pam Bondi.
Oh, I wasn't even close.
I think Bondi Jody is a DI somewhere in there.
Yeah.
See, I don't have the quotes already pulled out. Is she the Attorney General of Florida, or did I misread headlines as I was pulling this up? I wasn't current enough.
But you're still contemporary.
Yeah, right. Oh yeah, former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi, and we all know Florida is great at having just like not crimes that anyone hears about. They're doing a great job.
Yeah.
They're doing a great job keeping all the Florida men contained.
Oh, absolutely. And great to know that that's also where Matt Gaetz is from.
Yeah, why is it Florida? What's going on down there? You think it's like all the New England retirees and they're just like mixing with the like Cubans and it's doing something weird?
I think it's that, and like people just go down for spring break and they just like don't leave. They
Yeah.
just stay and keep thinking they're on spring break.
Yeah, that's probably a little bit of that. And the Gators. I think living in that proximity to like ancient beings like does something to you.
Oh yeah.
The same thing the Egyptians were on. You can't just be next to a primordial creature and come out unscathed.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that is Matt Gaetz. No longer Attorney General, no longer in Congress.
He's just a
Uh,
dude who's very creepy.
yeah, he'll probably be on Fox News the rest of his life. Never want for anything because everything's awful. All right. Here's another one that I don't really know a whole lot about. I need a link pulled up for it. Mike Huckabee was an ambassador to Israel. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's hilarious. Because his daughter already worked closely with the Trump campaign because she was the press secretary for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So that seems about right. Just another crony position in the worst possible spot.
Yeah. So, what do you know about Mike Huckabee?
Nothing much. Nothing substantial other than like vibes.
Oh,
Actually, that's really what
all
I wrote
right.
is
Yeah.
I don't know much about him other than vibes and his daughter. So overall, he seems like a perfect fit to Israel and sucks.
Yeah. All right. So, a
Yeah.
little bit of background. So, I'm sure you're aware of the alleged bribe. I'm sorry. I mean donation that
Because
Trump received from Miriam Adelson for $100 million to basically let Israel do whatever the hell they want, annex the West Bank, etc.
no, that sounds about like everything else that Trump did in his first term.
Yep. Yeah. So that happened, and yeah, Mike Huckabee. So his background falls squarely within that master plan. This is a guy who is a psychotic evangelical Christian who quite recently actually on a podcast he proclaimed that the end times are near and that's a good thing that we should be cheering for. He has also been quoted as saying there is no such thing as an occupation, there is no such thing as a West Bank, it's Judea and Samaria. So yeah, we're basically pouring gasoline on the fire right now.
And he was governor of Arkansas.
Yep.
What? So that's the thing is all my family's from Arkansas. I've been to Arkansas. I know what's in the water there. They have very clean water in Arkansas. I have no idea why all these horrible people keep coming out of Arkansas.
Oh man,
It's
I'm
like
so
him and Bill
sorry.
Clinton. Like, why do they keep? What's with all these like weird, like Machiavellian imperialistic moves that come out of Arkansas? Like with Bill Clinton
Yeah.
and the Haiti rice paddies, and now we got Mike Huckabee and the Israeli genocide, and Bill Clinton and the Israeli genocide.
Well, you know,
Ugh.
at least we got your family there to try and balance things out.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't. They're alright. They're not racist to me because I'm their family, but I don't know. They watch too much Fox News.
Yeah, let's see if we can pull up that podcast that he was on, because he literally said something like, "The end times are coming, and that's a good thing. We should be excited for this."
The end times are coming. That's gotta be easy to pull up, right?
Yeah.
Mike Huckabee, 2 months ago? Huckabee Today? No, it's his new book. Maybe this is hard to pull up. I'm gonna be honest, this isn't what I thought Mike Huckabee looked like. This isn't Mike Huckabee. I don't know which one of these guys is Mike Huckabee.
And the purpose of this book, Governor,
so
and
that
thank
dude
you
talking
again
now
for
is,
letting me talk about it.
He's not Mike Huckabee.
The end result, it gets
The
really
dude with
good
the beard
at
is
the
Mike
end.
Huckabee.
It does. And you can speak to this from your own
discount
experience as a
Bill O'Reilly.
former pastor. You know, it's good. And I think
I feel like that's just what happens to all like
Road.
boomer
And I want us
conservatives.
to kind of address
I think
some
you're
of those. What do we see next?
They just all
What is
eventually
the
morph
next
into Bill
step that
O'Reilly.
those of us who are here on Earth now ought to be preparing for and may expect to see?
Yes, sir.
Oh well, don't buy this guy's book. Don't support this guy. Either of them.
Throw it right in the dumpster.
Yeah, I mean he's religious. He's from Arkansas. You can probably guess what he was saying. It's very Oh, now I'm blanking. What's the Texas mega pastor guy? Joel Osteen stuff. You know,
Yeah.
just like evangelical. Like imagine South Park telling the people to send them money for the space laser. That's basically what Mike Huckabee is.
That's basically it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh God, we're gonna lose the Cold War II the same way we won Cold War I by trying to fund space lasers, except they'll be for Israel this time.
Yeah.
Oh God. Oh, why did I close out my notes? It crashed. Oh well. So let's see what we got next. That was Mike Huckabee. He's awful.
Yep.
He's gonna do horrible imperialistic stuff in Israel, like we do, unfortunately. Which brings us to other escalations. We have the approval of using ICBMs in Russia, like on the actual Russian land.
Oh yeah, on the actual Russian land.
Here we go. These weapons are intended to be used primarily in Kursk for now, U.S. officials said. With its huge troop amassment there, Russia is trying to take Kursk off the table as a potential bargaining chip for the Ukrainians in any future peace talks, something that the U.S. does not want to see. The idea is to help Ukraine hold on to Kursk for as long as possible. And again, I'm just quoting the CNN article. Thousands of North Korean troops have been deployed to Kursk as part of Russia's offensive, sparking concern from Biden and his advisors that their entry could lead to a dangerous new phase in the war. As President Trump has said on the campaign trail, he is the only person who can bring both sides together in order to negotiate peace and work towards ending the war and stopping the killing. Trump Communication Director Stephen Chung said in a statement to CNN. So what's weird about all this? Not weird, but everyone knew that if Trump got in office, this war would end very quickly, right? Even going so far as people thinking that Putin was expecting Trump to win in 2020, and that's why the invasion happened, like right after, because he was just ready for it no matter what after the election. And so now with increasing funding to Ukraine to try to get them to hold on to borders before Trump takes office, if it's really that easy to end the war, like Trump can just call Putin and end it, you know, it's also would be that easy to end the conflict in the genocide in Palestine right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's easier than that. All Biden would have to do is just make a phone call.
Right? And so the fact that like we're so worried about Trump making this phone call retroactively makes me madder that Biden's also not making the same phone call.
Yeah.
To Palestine. This whole conflict in general is something I'm kind of split on because obviously I'm anti-Russia in general right now with their oligarchical and corporate cronyism and whatever nonsense and exportation of disinformation and now an aggressive invading land war. Like, it's bad stuff, right? That goes without saying. I support Ukraine. But at the same time, I do agree with a lot of people where it's like, why does the U.S. just always have all this money to just send to all these wars? No one ever asks how we're paying for it.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question.
I think that's just it. Like, no matter how much grassroots organizing we do or how much of a good message we get out, we still can't beat the power of Raytheon sending you a check for like $20,000 when you get elected. That's
Pretty bleak.
But that's just kind of what's happening in the front.
Lobbying is one hell of a drug. And yeah, this is a major escalation. ICBMs, these are, you would typically put a nuclear warhead on these. Luckily, that wasn't the case with these specific weapons.
So we're not giving them to Ukraine, but Putin has said he will retaliate if we actually do use ICBMs on Russia.
Precisely.
In fact, to the point where Kiev is claiming that they actually did Ukraine, and this is out of Al Jazeera. Ukraine has claimed that Russia fired an ICBM overnight in the central city of I'm not going to pronounce this right. Dnipro? Dnipro?
Yeah, that sounds
Maybe it's all silent. I don't know. Armed with conventional warheads. Did not provide any evidence while Russia refused to comment on the attack. Vladimir Zelensky said that the missile matches the speed and altitude of an ICBM. So there's been a lot of buzz on that. It really is escalating on both sides. Looks like Russia wants to just start deploying the long-range stuff and kind of end the war quickly, maybe trying to blitz on a weapon standpoint. You still there?
Yeah. Sorry, my camera was, there's a little bit of a lag, so I just figured I'd turn it off.
No, yeah, it's fine. So yeah, I mean, it is just more evidence of the increasing escalation. Why am I? Just get the red boxes out of there. Oh well. Yeah, I mean, that's it. Just more escalating conflicts.
Yep. Either one could lead to World War III, so that's fun.
I don't think it'll lead to World War III. I feel like it's just going to be more people. It's going to be like more Cold War stuff. Like, there's not going to be open conflict. I know North Koreans are getting in there, but that's just North Korea, you know. It is just Russia and North Korea.
The North Koreans are just too busy jacking off to porn that they just discovered.
But it is funny that now Russia themselves are the country other world powers are funneling money into to do this soft ideological conflicts, you know.
Yeah.
Except I don't know if anyone actually is. I mean, someone's got to be funding Russia's nonsense. I still think it's China, but I don't really know what they get with an ally in Russia.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Not anymore. It's not even the same as Cold War, where it's like, oh, we're both communists and that's enough. So that's I guess we can move on to the next thing, and this one is we got a couple voting resolutions. They're all kind of related too, right? Because they're voting on
stuff related to Israel.
Yeah. We got 1449 condemning the global rise of anti-Semitism and calling upon countries and international bodies to counter anti-Semitism, and the Stop Terror Financing and Tax Penalties on American Hostages Act.
Yeah.
Which I don't know much about either of those two things, except something tells me they're not about condemning the global rise of anti-Semitism or stopping terror financing.
No, not at all. So the so that House HR Res 1449, which was the that first one that we talked about.
It seems very aptly numbered too.
Yes, it is. So on
Maybe
the
not.
surface, it sounds right. What's controversial about condemning anti-Semitism and terrorism?
Yeah.
However, when you look below the surface, uh, this is a resolution that is very much backed by APAC, being pushed by APAC, I would say, and it doesn't exactly clarify what terrorism is.
No, and that's the
Now,
classic American maneuver. Also, I would imagine that this kind of continues the trend of wrapping Israel as an identity into as Jewishness as a whole. So it's not like anti-Semitism; it's anti-Israeli sentiments they're trying to ban.
right. Yeah, and actually, that is another piece of it too. Uh, they also call for states and international organizations to adopt the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's definition of anti-Semitism, which is precisely what you said. It links anti-Semitism with criticism of the state of Israel.
Yeah, which is very messed up because Judaism is a very, very long, widespread religion, and to tie it to just Israel specifically is, well, I mean, we see where it's leading to and what they're using that for. And then obviously defining terrorism would be any pro-Palestine sentiments because they're trying to link just the civilians of Gaza with Hamas in general.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, and I
very,
mean we've already seen our government cut funding to UNRWA just based on unsubstantiated claims by the state of Israel that they were funding October 7th militants.
right, right. Or October 7th, all the memes I see are like, they call it Coachella next to Auschwitz.
That's pretty accurate. I mean, I personally couldn't imagine going to a concert next to a massive concentration camp, but that's just me.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
Now what's interesting about this piece of legislation is how the votes broke down. Um, so apparently we had 193 Republicans voted for, which is not very surprising. 195 Democrats voted for as well, also not surprising. But then when you see who voted against, 18 Republicans voted against this, but only three Democrats voted against this. The three Democrats were Cori Bush, Rashida Tlaib, and Ilhan Omar.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah,
I think
because
it is interesting though that there is so that's most of the squad, but we are missing AOC in there.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, we all know that she's has a very singular perception of how to play politics, and the more she plays it, and the more she goes forward, it seems to be very close to how other prominent women view politics, like Hillary and Kamala,
Yeah.
where she's just playing the neo the neo lib game for some reason.
Yeah, that was something I wanted to ask you about because and I know like the online left tends to kind of fight over, oh, AOC did this, AOC didn't do that. But yeah, I think your assessment is fairly accurate. Um
I think
and
she
then
means well, unlike
yeah,
a bunch of other
I do
people.
too.
I just don't think she's great at playing the games that she needs to be playing, you know? I think she
I
doesn't need
agree.
to be playing games. I think she needs to just, we need to go full, like, just be more sincere with it, not, I don't know, just politic,
Yeah, and
not take that $20,000 check from Raytheon. I guess is what we
exactly.
need her to not do. She just has been.
And I'm not sure how much this played a role in her not voting the right way on this, but I think it's also it may be helpful to remember that Jamal Bowman and Corey Bush just got annihilated by an APAC money cannon. Um, however, and I guess I want to sort of get your take on this. should we be rooting for people who are going to consistently stand for the right thing no matter what, or should we understand that there may be some situations where they're just going to have to take shitty votes?
I, I mean, all that in an ideal world, yes, we should always have people who stand for the right thing. I do think there is a little too much moral scrutiny, like litmus test, where it's like, okay, you don't match everything, so I don't support you at all. I do think that happens a little too much on a national scale. I think the large thing is that we're looking for change at that scale, so we're trying to get people into Congress and the Congress to do stuff. And when it comes for stuff like this, funding terrorists and stuff, yes, I think we should. For this kind of thing, I think we should be supporting people who take the stand when it matters every single time. Some things aren't as important, if you like party line votes, like, yeah, it would suck if you don't support the public transportation bill or like the infrastructure reform or any kind of like labor rights, like, yeah, that's all shitty. But when it comes to something like this, we have an active genocide on our hands, and these people are just enabling it and funding it. Yeah, we should not be. There should be a lot more pushback on that.
Well, apologies. I think we should clarify something. So the HR 1449. So this one actually just called to condemn the rise of anti-Semitism, I believe, and then HR, and then also ties in the
Oh yeah,
I8.
we talking about them both at the same time?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. I'm just realizing that now. Yeah, so 1449 called to condemn anti-Semitism and links the IHRA, that's the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's definition, which links criticism of Israel with anti-Semitism, and then that Stop Terrorism Financing and Tax Penalties bill. So that was actually HR 9495.
Right. Those are the two. I mean, I have them both up.
Yep.
We've been.
Okay, gotcha.
I've been only having the 1449 and making it seem like this is only what we're talking about. But yeah, it's definitely the combination of the two, because it's the same stuff that we saw growing up through the Bush administration.
Oh yeah.
It's just wild. Not wild, just. I guess, yeah, wild's the right thing. I'm not surprised, but it is just wild to see it all just unfold in real time. But like people lining up to it, like excited that it's happening again.
I mean, I feel like this is probably worse though.
Oh yeah, because it's just because it's an escalation from that. I mean, well,
yeah,
because that was more of like, okay, we're doing this for land, we're doing this, we're grabbing oil. There's not even like a Saddam Hussein figure, It's
yeah, and in the wake of 9/11, there was this sort of like rally around the flag reaction.
Right.
I mean, I remember my dad was always blaring that song, "And I'm proud to be an American." Whereas in this case, I mean,
Rest
we're just
in hell,
talking
Toby
about
Keith.
straight up genocide and land grabs.
Right. Now, I think to say like one's worse than the other, I don't know if you can really quantify that. Because I'm sure if you were destabilized in Afghanistan, you might not be saying this is worse.
I guess I shouldn't.
But I do agree with you that it does feel worse.
Yes.
It's because this one's more malicious, which is kind of hard to compare war crimes to war crimes. But I mean, it's the same reason that made World War II stand out. This feels more active, direct, and evil.
Yes. And there's just so much more evidence right now too, showing just how horrendous things truly are.
And to watch the denialism and the spin and the propaganda in real time, it's infuriating. It really is. You ask, like, how did this happen? How did we let this happen? And the answer is very easily. It just happens, and people would rather not think about it happening.
Dude, I literally feel like I'm going crazy every day, just like seeing how Matt Miller is going to spin the latest atrocity into Israel's right to defend itself.
Yeah, it's like the end of that one the rehearsal episode, where it's like this whole thing where he's questioning his Jewish faith and how to raise a kid with that, and this other lady comes in and reaffirms him and like gives them all this support, and it ends on a happy note, and then she's like, you need to talk about Israel and your support of Israel and only Israel forever, and he's just like, and then ends the episode.
I actually don't think I've seen that one.
Oh man. Yeah, this is the contemporary current show shout out of the week. Watch The Rehearsal on HBO, Nathan Fielder. It's not contemporary or current anymore, but you never know.
But it is good.
It's man, it's super good. I couldn't watch The Curse. I got the fear from that one.
Oh yeah, I watched like the first episode. It was a little too long for me. Although that cherry tomato boy scene was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, that's Corbin. No, Corbin something. I want to call him Hostler, but that's the Magic the Gathering player. Cherry tomato boys. It's like I also now work at a tribal casino. I also then I'm married. It just was hitting too close to home. I'm like, all right, I can't watch this. I'm too scared. I too am trying to gentrify my neighborhoods and flip a real estate book. Right. Well, that kind of leads us back into more lighter topics, I guess.
Yeah.
Of the guys in Amsterdam who got the crap beat out of them.
Yeah.
So this happened after some kind of soccer match, football. If you're fancy, I don't really know what a football club is, but I'm too American for that. I don't know anything about American sports either.
It was the Maccabi Tel Aviv team. They're from Israel. They're playing against some Dutch team, I think, and some team in Amsterdam.
It's crazy how Israelis go around the world and get treated how you would think like American tourists get treated stereotypically. Like it's just somehow become worse than a stereotypical American tourist because they're like actively evil and full of themselves about it. Tensions first escalated when Israeli football fans reportedly took down a Palestinian flag and chanted anti-Arab slogans like "F you Palestine" and "No children in Gaza." According to videos verified by Reuters and eyewitnesses Al Jazeera spoke to on the ground, before their club's match with a Dutch team, 62 individuals were detained in connection with attacks as police officers tried to control the situations. It's crazy.
Yeah, but you wouldn't know that from the mainstream media because according to them, it was a pogrom.
Yeah, which is the first time I've had to say that word out loud and looked it up, and I'm still not sure I'm saying it right, so I'm just not going to say it again. Pogrom? I feel like I'm... Pogrom? I'm going to say pogrom because I sound like John Wayne saying pilgrim.
Yeah, but basically, yeah, so these Israelis were running wild, and then like the minute, the actual victims fought back, the Israelis did what Israelis do, and they pretended they were the victims.
Oh, every time. My favorite is watching like videos of them in crowds, and they're always like blah blah blah, and someone just yells like "Free Palestine," and they like break down in shambles.
Dude, did you see that video from the World Cup?
Yeah, where the guy they were interviewing them, and the lady had to like cover her mouth because the guy just popped in and was like "fuck you," and they're like "oh."
The
There's a lot of them.
It was, yeah, the one that I saw, it was like this like asshole like Israeli dude. So this European kid was being interviewed. They're like, "Oh, what do you think about the match?" And he's like, "Oh, well, I think Israel did okay." And then this fucking Israeli came out of nowhere. He's like, "Oh, Israel's the best. We're the best. Oh no, we're the best football players." He's like, "Sir, they were okay." He's like, "Oh, you know what? Oh, you're supporting Palestine, aren't you?" He's like, "Sir, I don't want to make this political." And then he kept going, and then just completely unprovoked, the kid just started singing, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free."
Oh yeah, I did see that one. You can see him go from like I don't want to think about it to like a full radical.
It turned him into a member of PFLP in real time.
Good for him.
Yeah.
And then of course I think Biden even called it that too. Like.
Oh yeah, dude, you gotta pull up Biden's statement.
Okay, let's see if I can pull this one up. I failed my Huckabee. Let's see if I can get Biden calling the. Maybe I should pull up more than one link per topic.
You just gotta look up White House statement.
Statement.
Maccabi
Progrom.
Tel Aviv.
Oh yeah, Maccabi. There we go. Those are good. Those are good search words.
Yeah.
That's why I can't ever find anything. I don't know the. Oh yeah, here we go. Condemns despicable attacks on Israeli soccer fans in Amsterdam. I don't listen to the Hill. Go away, lady. We're the only news heads you need to take information from. The anti-Semitic attacks on Israeli soccer fans in Amsterdam are despicable and echo dark moments in history when the Jews were persecuted. We must relentlessly fight anti-Semitism wherever it emerges. And again, I think that's that kind of like. I mean, it's dangerous. We all like see where the weaponization and the linking of the Judaism as a whole to Israel is going.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, like it kind of like makes me wonder, like, do we have to worry about Israelis just like wrecking shit like everywhere that their team fucking loses now? Like,
I mean, more so than you do in most like football events, I'm sure. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean they already are. So yeah, let's. I think that backed by the U.S. military guarantee is going a little too far to their heads.
A little bit.
Like they just saw a thing where it was like the oldest Israeli soldier killed in Lebanon. It's like a tragedy. It's like, well, why was he in Lebanon? And if children get to be staff sergeant, like what was his rank? I think were the jokes I saw about
don't
that.
They have like don't they have like 19-year-old like commanders and shit?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Oh man.
grimly hilarious how not good they do against any other organized military force when they're not just bulldozering civilians. They'll do very well.
Yeah.
All right.
Going back though, so apparently Netanyahu actually wanted to like airlift these like soccer fans back to Israel.
Yeah, just spend more money. Why not? And that's why the International Criminal Court has issued an arrest warrant for him. Because he wanted to airlift soccer fans out and all the other war crimes. Jazeera reports there are reasonable grounds to believe that Gallant and Netanyahu intentionally and knowingly deprived the civilian population in Gaza of objects indispensable to their survival, including food, water, medicine, medical supplies, and as well as fuel and electricity.
Yeah, I mean that was the very first thing that they announced when they launched the genocide. It was Yoav Gallant said, "No food, no water, no electricity."
Yeah, I think reasonable grounds covers it.
Yeah.
There's definitely reasonable grounds to suggest that. I mean, this is largely symbolic. It's a good symbol to take. I wish it had teeth to it.
Well, there is there is a bit of a silver lining to this. Now there's approximately somewhere around 124 countries, I believe, that Netanyahu won't be able to go to without fear of getting arrested.
I mean, there's every other country except the U.S. I can't go to without fear of going bankrupt. Because I'm broke. I think he'll be fine. I think he'll be fine. I think largely because it ties it to him specifically. I think there's kind of an issue with that. And I think that's why there's more of an issue, or more of a rush to like link the anti-Semitism with Israel, because
Yeah.
even if he gets ousted, like, does any of this stop? Like, does any of this stop? Like, does the Netanyahu's replacement come in and do anything different?
That's a good point. I never really thought of it that way.
So, like, yeah, this is cool. I just, I don't know. It's just one of those, like, purely symbolic things. Like, they gave him an honorary degree somewhere.
I gotta admit though, I was surprised to see this come out because supposedly the head of the ICC, he was getting threats from like Mossad dudes.
Oh, of course he was. Because they don't like any kind of criticism whatsoever.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it means more
Uh,
than I'm kind of just downplaying it right now. I feel like I've seen a lot too many things to get my hopes up. Like, he's not getting arrested.
Reportedly, the UK, Canada, have both announced that they would abide by the ICC's ruling.
Yeah, I saw the Trudeau uh, presser about that. I don't know what you call that. I don't think
Yeah,
they're
pressure.
stopping to send money though. Maybe Britain
No.
has, but I know UK or Canada still is doing weapons funding.
One thing that I do find very ironic is state that very forcefully said that they would ignore this ruling. Would you care to guess which state that was?
Well, it's a very popular international decision, so of course the U.S. is going against it.
Well, aside from the U.S.
Uh, like Argentina or something weird like that. Russia, probably, maybe.
Germany.
Oh, right. My next guess was Turkey after that for some reason. Why not?
Wait, did Turkey really say that they wouldn't arrest him?
No, I just said that was my next guess.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
No, yeah, it's
yeah, that
country
makes sense
that
because for some reason Germany is also quick to jump on the exact same like thing everyone else is, where it's like, oh, this is like their guilt, their like cultural guilt is blinding them and leading them straight into the exact same right wing movement that everyone
for
else is
real.
seeing.
Yeah, they've somehow let their guilt get so bad that they've now committed that they've now been aiding genocide twice within 100 year time span.
Yeah,
It's incredible.
yeah. Well, because unfortunately for everyone, it's not genocide if you don't consider the victims people. Which unfortunately for them as well is what actually makes it genocide. But I've even seen that argument where they're like, I don't actually recognize the Palestinian state, and that's why I don't think this is genocide. It's like that. That's exactly why it is genocide.
So like you do realize there were people there for 1948, right?
Yep. It wouldn't even matter anyway. Like, it just wouldn't matter. It never matters. People aren't going to be happy, and people are going to take that $20,000 Raytheon check and keep the propaganda machine running. Keep everybody happy. Or ignorant. Well, I think that's the end of our politics. The Matt Gaetz, Mike Huckabee escalating in the Palestinian conflict. Conflict. I keep calling it that. It is a genocide. It's not a conflict.
Yeah.
See, that's the loaded words they conditioned me to use, Carl. Like, call it a conflict. It's the Middle East conflict. Don't worry about what it actually is.
Yeah, if one side can just cut off like food to the other, it's you're dealing with genocide.
Yeah. Because, I mean, it's like, it's one-sided, it's systemic, and the only goal is the elimination of those people.
Oh yeah, it's fucking it's Lebensraum, literally.
Yep.
Manifest Destiny,
Yep. It's
insert
actually the exact
other.
same two justifications that Germany used for both World Wars.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I need to, like, everyone, like, I'm surrounded by enemies and I want more room for my people, and oh, what if I just, like, quickly strike out at people around me when they're not expecting it to take them out quickly?
Yeah.
The two just, like, wild.
You ever read some of the writings from the early Zionists?
I have not, no.
Dude, you gotta read The Iron Wall. It was written by this Israeli colonizer, early Zionist colonizer, I should say. named Vladimir Jabotinsky, and like he literally says that um he favorably compares the colonization of Palestine to the colonization of America, and he compares the Palestinians to the Sioux Nation, and he explicitly says that the Palestinians won't stop resisting for as long as they have a hope to prevent the transformation of the land of Palestine into the land of Israel.
Yeah, I mean, it is very. That actually is more apt than the Holocaust comparisons. I mean, the end goal is the same, but it is way more like Manifest Destiny than it is the Holocaust.
Indeed.
And that's why, at the say, that's also why it feels more socially acceptable than the Holocaust, or what the propaganda wants to paint it as, because in that light, it's both negative and positive, right? Because for some, people have a positive view of that whole section of American history. And so by comparing it to that, they can just kind of piggyback off that, even though it's not good.
And you've even got, people today trying to erase that side of American history.
Right. Because, I mean, it's the whole, like, oh, it didn't happen. Oh, it did happen. It was good.
Yeah.
It just wasn't good. But, like, I think there's just a lot of things where people now are like, well, what do we do about it now? Like, the U.S. has been colonized. It's settled. Like, what do we do? Like, how do we take action to help them out? And I'm sure there's an actual answer. You probably had something to say, but I think short of us actually getting people on here to talk about it, like, actual natives to tell us what they would like us to do, to host their voice, to give them a platform to speak.
Well, I was going to say, what we do with that information now is we prevent it from happening again.
Yeah, which the only way I can think to do that is what we're doing now, and just put a camera on us and talk about it.
Truth to power, baby.
Yeah. It's all we can do. Which, as we've seen in the last 8 years, that is a very powerful thing to do. I mean, it always has been. It doesn't matter if there's only 3 people watching us. If those 3 people hear what we're saying, like it, tell 3, it pyramid schemes down, and just put the message and the change we want to see out in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which brings us to our next topic. Moving right along. I think we're actually right on schedule with our. Let me check the spreadsheet. Yeah, we're right on. This is when it said we'd be done with all those topics. All right. So we got Kendrick Lamar, Father John Misty, Lady Raven. A lot of good stuff happening this year in music. Kendrick Lamar
I've heard,
dropped a new album. What'd you hear?
I've heard a little Lady Raven because I did actually watch Trap.
Yeah, I still have it.
It's good. It's pretty campy, but I found it very enjoyable.
I mean, that's his style, right?
What's he twist?
It's not even like, oh, everything has a twist. He makes very personal movies to himself.
Yeah.
Like whenever you're watching an M. Night movie, you can really, other than Avatar, because I think that was just his, like, he took a check to make a movie, and I can't blame him.
Didn't they pronounce it like Avatar too?
Yeah, it's weird. But you can always tell, like, you're watching a movie that M. Night made because he wanted to make and watch that movie.
Yeah. For sure. What really stands out about Trapple is there really wasn't a twist.
Right, I feel like the biggest twist, I haven't seen it, but the biggest twist I heard is that there's just more movie, like it doesn't all take place in the concert. I feel like that's a pretty big twist.
Yeah. So the premise
spoilers for Trap, by the way.
Yeah. the premise for those watching, a father takes his daughter to a concert for this woman, Lady Raven, and there's like a heavy police presence, and you're not really sure what's going on. There's a part where he goes to the bathroom and checks his phone, and he's just looking at video footage of a dude locked up in a basement. And you come to find out this guy is a serial killer, and the concert was set up to basically arrest him. The cops somehow knew that they don't know what the killer looks like, but they knew that he would be showing up at this concert. So the premise is this guy is trying to spend a fine evening with his daughter while also trying to avoid being arrested.
Yeah, I mean that's what the trailer sells it as. It also sells it as him just like walking around doing like Hitman, Looney Tune style shenanigans
Oh,
to
dude,
divert attention away from
stuff that-
himself.
the stuff that he does is pretty ridiculous. Like, I was watching, I'm like, all right, how many times is he gonna tell his daughter that he has to go get up and do something during the concert?
It's fine. I have to go return some videotapes.
Yeah, for real Patrick Bateman vibes going on.
Oh, I love it. Josh Hartnett,
But yeah, so
excellent Oppenheimer.
yeah. So you checked out the Lady Raven album?
Yeah, I mean I've been listening to it for a while. It's the one where whenever I'm listening to albums, I don't go through with like the lyrics for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So I rarely know exactly what any of the songs like about, like what they're. So it's more just like listening to the music, the composition, how it flows, how it like stacks together from an album. Like how one goes into the next, into the next. It's a good album. It's a good album. I think it definitely stands on its own. Salika's got talent.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, from watching the movie, M. Night's daughter has a pretty nice voice. Um, very very unique pop sound, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always a fan of girl pop in general. I don't know why I call it
Yeah.
that. I just always feel like a drunk girl when I'm listening to it.
Dude, like
I mean, not so much Lady Raven, but
no, they just get stuck in your head, man. You got them,
yeah.
and it's hard to get them out,
Did you get a chance to listen to the new Kendrick Lamar GNX or the Father John Misty album?
I did not.
Oh. Yeah, but unfortunately, Charlie couldn't be here tonight. He had more to say about those.
Oh man,
I did also listen to them. They're good. I did not know who Father John Misty was until I listened to the album. I thought it was going to be a hip hop. I thought he was going to be a hip hop artist.
yeah.
It's a good stage name, that's for sure.
So what kind of music, Misty John?
I wouldn't even know how to begin to explain it. It kind of sounds like a folksy kind of like Cat Stevens-ish, but like not, and he's kind of got like wacky lyrics going on.
Oh,
Kind of. Ooh, error. YouTube is not what.
what's
Sorry,
happening?
the stream's going something. OBS is too small for me to read out the whole error message. Oh, okay, just people are buffering. I'm sorry. Okay, so we're talking about, oh yeah, Father John Misty. It's like, kind of like Richard Cheese, or like that one guy who was like, the one guy we listened to in high school, like sung about zombies, or kind of sounds like the Portal song, like This Is a Triumph.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But not. It's like there's definitely like a message there. Like he's definitely being serious. He just kind of delivers it in a way where it almost sounds like parody.
So it's like a simplistic delivery with strong meaning.
It's not. I wouldn't. Simplistic delivery, I feel like kind of undersells it. Like it sounds like you're listening to like some art. I don't know. This is just a good album. You should definitely take a listen to it. It's just very hard to describe. It's like a late, like a Buffalo Springfield-y out. I'm like saying a bunch of buzzwords, but none of them really nail the feeling.
If we were to pull it up, would we probably get DMCA'd?
Yeah, I don't know how that works,
Yeah.
so I'm not gonna try to pull up music about it. I don't know what
I'll
the
definitely give
limit
it a
is.
listen.
Yeah, definitely listen to it. It's just
What's
not what I was expecting. I haven't listened to anything else he's done. It was good.
what's the name of that album?
Oh God. It's like Mashashada, Father John Misty. Never pulled the Wikipedia up for it. Mahashmashana.
Mahashmashana. Try saying that 5 times
I
fast.
couldn't even say it once. That's why I don't like saying things out loud, despite me now hosting 2 YouTube channels where I talk out loud.
You're just leveling up, man.
Yeah. It's just weird. Good album. Kind of like indie rock, shoegaze, but like it's still I don't know. That's why we need someone who knows words to describe it. Because I don't know words. I just know how to ramble. But it's good. He dropped a diss track on Instagram because apparently him and Kendrick Lamar almost always drop albums on the same time, at the same day, without coordinating. So he dropped a Kendrick
Father
Lamar.
John Misty?
Yeah. Yeah, they almost always drop albums at the exact same day for some reason. I was reading somewhere, I was like, this is like the 4th time it's happened.
That's pretty hilarious.
Yeah. So he dropped a diss track, which was alright. In it, he also says there's no law but the old law, baby. And then, yeah, GNX was good. I don't know if you've heard any other Kendrick Lamar albums, but it's a really good one.
No, so I'm trying to expand my rap tastes.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
So
almost any album by him is good. I don't know. He's one I've heard. Like I put his albums on, but I haven't. I wouldn't be able to like recall. Like, oh, I like this one. Oh, I like that one, because I've just kind of heard them. But when I'm listening to it, when they pop up on Spotify, I'm like, oh, I've heard this before, and it's like, oh yeah, I've somehow listened to this one album like 7 times. No, but GNX is pretty good. He's
check it out.
He's very aggressive, very strong meaning in a lot of what he's talking about. But it's like easy to pick up on because he's got a very good slow and easy to digest flow.
All right.
And some wacky stuff in there too. Like always, you can't have a good hip hop song if it's not a little funny. Or hip hop album.
Keep it wacky. Gotta protect your neck.
Right? Squabble up. Yeah, that's really actually all I had written down was squabble up specifically, and I don't know really what I'm going to say about Mashashashana. I just don't know.
Mashashashana.
All right, which brings us to the Game Awards. We got video games on deck.
We do.
Let me bring up something. I don't have anything to bring up on screen. Okay. We'll go back to the live feed while we stay current. So you played this year. What was the game of the year one you played? Oh, Black Myth Wukong.
Yeah.
Which is one I had been watching trailers for years now. Like I've been watching this game about to be coming out for a while. Me and Rob.
Yeah, same.
So I'm glad. Yeah. I'm glad it was solid. I'm glad it's like a solid, like action game. You know.
It was very solid, and yeah, like I saw the trailer years ago, and I was drawn to it because for folks listening, so I took Chinese in college, and I think it's just cool. I think Chinese mythology and folklore overall is just really cool, and it's this huge untapped source of material, really. So yeah, I think it's great to see those stories be brought to more of a Western audience.
Yeah,
and also the gameplay is fucking fantastic.
that's good. Yeah, it's like I wouldn't. I know you said it was Souls-like. I know it's a lot of people bring it to, but it's more like Neo than Dark Souls, right? Like a lot of people say it's kind of like Devil May Cry 5, but I think it's more slow and grounded, like Neo, but not
I
as like
mean,
floaty as DMC, right?
so I'm not. So
Haven't played as
I'm
much.
definitely not a great Souls like player. I will admit that I was caught off guard a little bit by the combat. So the combat is actually pretty fast paced. You know, the enemies, they're gonna hit you fast, they're gonna hit you hard.
Well, yeah,
But I think one of the things that sort of makes Black Myth Wukong unique is that the game just throws so many tools at your disposal to use. Um, so in the mythology, Sun Wukong, he gets like all kinds of crazy abilities. Like he can clone himself, uh he can transform into like 72 different like beings, uh all kinds of crazy stuff. And yeah, you basically get to unlock all those abilities in the game.
it's awesome.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
so the combat it's pretty versatile. You've got plenty of options. So that for me was pretty refreshing, and that's helped me get over some hurdles. Although I will admit I am stuck at a certain point, and I I haven't played in quite a while, but I'm definitely looking forward to jumping back in soon.
Yeah, I mean, I know that feeling. I've been playing Dragon Age, and I'm decently far into it, but I don't know if I'm actually gonna finish it. It's very rare I like actually finish a game. I know we all feel that way. I think the last like
Dude,
AAA single player game I actually beat was Starfield. Uh,
dude, I got a backlog going back to like fucking 2016.
oh, okay, we got we got Tyler on deck who's gonna jump in while we're talking about the game awards.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going. We were just talking a little bit about Black Myth Wukong. 'Cause that's what Mike had played.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I haven't played that one.
No, I haven't either.
It's good.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what do you think like the narrative is for like all the nominees this year, if there is one?
I don't know. I think they just kind of
Huh?
nominate what's been in the like the buzz, like the culture. It's just like
Mm,
what people have been talking about.
Yeah.
You know, there's rarely like an out of left field pick. It's just kind of people being mad that something that they liked that wasn't the thing just didn't get picked enough. I don't really know the politics around the Game Awards yet, other than when they like snubbed Kojima specifically.
I'm pretty sure for the initial nominees, they have like game journalism, press, and like other people involved like vote on who the nominees should be, basically. But I thought this year was really interesting because it's really clear. It's just like there's like a criticism about the Oscars where it's like a lot of like obscure art house films. I think with like this show, they're like trying to make it like really popular games that people have an opinion on or have at least touched and stuff like that. So
I mean, that's kind of the Game Awards in general, for sure.
yeah.
That's always been their vibe. It's not. It's more just like, hey, let's because it's all the big ones to get people watching it, and then when you watch it, it's all just like trailers for upcoming games.
It's cool though to see stuff like Balatro because Balatro is a game where like
Yeah,
maybe isn't like a traditional like game of the year type game because it's so big, so popular. You know, it's on phones now. Like
yeah,
you just started playing it, I think.
yeah.
Like
It's
that
super
has
good.
kind of let it like transcend and kind of like enter that like top game spot.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
probably definitely my game of the year. I think it's like just like great design and like really interesting visual flair too. Like it's just like
And like,
all the levels. I feel like from like
and it's
simplicity up to
yeah, the simplicity I
presentation. It's
think
like
is
amazing. Yeah.
what I think's giving it the wide reach because it's just like poker, solitaire poker, like Yahtzee in a way. It's already a game people know. You already know what it is. You jump in, and if you're familiar with the genre of like roguelites, there's a lot of stuff in there immediately that grabs you. Uh, So I think it's like a way that a lot of like wide people can just kind of jump in, pick it up, know how to play, and play for hours without realizing it, and then go up on and indoctrinate other people to do the same.
And Bellatra, that's an indie game, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah,
would,
solo dev. Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
really good.
that's cool seeing one of those in the Game Awards.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite nominee. I feel the opposite towards Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
That's another interesting one because it's like a number 2 in a series of like 3 games. But it feels like the excitement around that is like not very high.
Yeah,
I've played a little bit of the first one, but I didn't check out Rebirth because I didn't finish the first one basically. So
it's number 2 in a series of 3 based on one game.
yeah,
Right. But that one game is Final Fantasy VII, which I feel like is something to be said. It's like as big to
Very
games as like The Hobbit was to fantasy books,
Yeah.
which I also don't think that should have gotten 3 whole movies, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I'm kind of a Final Fantasy VII hater in general, so I just downplay it. But everyone who's like
shots
actually,
fired.
everyone who's actually played it seems to really enjoy it. It's like
yeah,
it's high quality.
I've heard
I
good
don't doubt
stuff,
it.
but do you think like the reaction to it is like tied to stuff like Final Fantasy like 16, which I know people feel really mixed about, and like the overall like Final Fantasy series, or do you think like the reaction to it is more about it just being like a number 2 in a 3 game series, and it's like kind of like this weird, almost like middle child in a way?
Yeah, I think it's probably the latter.
I don't know. I think it seems very obvious that it's in the Game of the Year contender. You know, it's a big, giant budget. A lot of people worked on it. Very technically sound. There's a lot of love into it. So it is the very kind of game that would be up in this spot. I don't know how much it being the second game really matters. 'Cause it is kind of weird, but I think the Final Fantasy VII just like in general overwrites a lot of like weird complaints that I have about it, which then becomes my chief complaint about it. I think Final Fantasy VII gets too much attention out of all the Final Fantasies they could do giant bombastic refreshes for.
Right. Yeah.
Fair criticism.
I would say it's
I
not
don't
my
know. I lost my
personal-
point.
It's not my personal like favorite Final Fantasy either, so it's like kind of like hard for me to do like the pro category for. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just started dipping into Final Fantasy recently when I did Final Fantasy 14, so it's kind of cool to like kind of go back and see like the other
yeah.
flavors. But
I mean, they're
yeah, I
all
don't know,
worth
there seems
playing.
like a shift. Yeah.
It's just 7. Even when I was a kid, it was the first one we had for PS2, PS1. It's just always my least favorite of all the PlayStation Final Fantasies.
Now, while we're on the subject of RPGs, so Tyler, you've played another nominee, Like a Dragon: Infinite Wealth, right?
Yeah, I was actually very excited for that game because I finished 7, which I really liked.
Yeah.
And then 8 was really good as well. But there was like I kind of ended up conflicted when I like finished playing that game. I think my playthrough was like 80, 90 hours. I really loved the changes to the combat. Like I think it has some of the best based combat I've played, where you get to like move your character around like in a free move section and then set where they're going to attack. And so now you have like all these interesting things where you're trying to like overlap abilities, but it never feels like an XCOM thing where it's like you moved in the wrong, you're like one square off, so it doesn't like overlap properly. You have like all the time in the world to kind of like set up your combos and stuff.
That
And then the
sounds
way
cool.
they do like different perks and abilities, there's like all these like kind of like cool builds you can build around. Like you can like stack buffs on one character and then have them like use a skill that triggers off the buffs and stuff. So it was like really great gameplay wise. It was also the setting was like really fun, seeing like these characters like go to America and kind of like investigate America through like this Japanese lens. Like that was really great as well. I was just really disappointed like in the ending. Like I really wanted it to be my game of the year, but I think like some story and gameplay decisions they make in the end of the game, like the final third, kind of like
Yeah.
kept it from being like a personal favorite this year.
I mean, that's I've I mean, I've only played like 3 or 4 Yakuza games now, but that's pretty standard. Like, the stories
Yeah.
go all over the place. Like, there's some parts that are really good and some parts that are really not good. They do tend to usually be backloaded, where like the back's way really good and like justifies everything else, but they don't always do it. So that tracks. That tracks. It's
Yeah,
also
so
hard to top 7 in general story wise. Like 7 had a fantastic story.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I really enjoyed like the full ride of 7,
Yeah.
and 8 felt like it was retreading a lot of stuff from 7, and it wasn't adding as much new things to the mix on at least for the back half of the game. And then there's also like 2 parties, like RPG parties in the game.
Yeah.
And I was really excited to see what they're gonna do with 2 parties, and I feel like both like gameplay wise and story wise, they didn't do a good job at the very end. It was like cool having 2 different like full casts kind of in a way, but it just felt like 2 different games at times instead of like it kind of like blending together. So I was
Oh
hoping it
yeah.
would be able to like tie everything back in. So
Yeah. That's what my favorite PlayStation 1 Final Fantasy does with Final Fantasy 8. It's like the whole like 2 casts or split up the main cast sometimes, but like there's a whole like parallel story that you play through the entire Final Fantasy 8. You don't really know what the hell's going on with it until like the end, and it does tie everything together, kind of. This Final Fantasy 8 doesn't really come together anyway. But the
So,
like
here-
alternate story stuff is the best part about it. Like the second cast, they carry the whole game.
So hearing Tyler explain sort of the combat mechanics and that B party, if you will, I'm definitely very intrigued. However, I will fully admit that I don't have a whole lot of experience with the Yakuza series. I've played maybe like a little bit of Zero and like a little bit of Kiwami 1. Um, if I were to hop into just the predecessor to Infinite Wealth and then Infinite Wealth, would I be completely lost, or would I be able to sort of make my way through?
So like they're all kind of. I mean, maybe you shouldn't jump right into 8, but you can definitely jump right into 7 because like I only played 0, 1, and 2, and then skipped to 7. Oh, actually, I played 0 and 1, started 2, then played 7, then went back and finished 2.
Okay.
You really can just jump into them. Yeah, like there's probably some stuff where you'll see it and be like, oh, that's probably a tie back, and I don't have context to that, but it's never like it's fine. You don't have to
Alright.
play through all 7 games to play 7 and appreciate it, despite what some people will tell you online.
it's hard for me because like my experience is just like jumping around like as well. I don't really have like a concrete mastery of the Yakuza story. But I
Yeah.
did play little bits of Kwame, a lot of it, and then I've played through 7 and then 8. Like I love 8's gameplay, and I think it's a clear upgrade from 7. But I also feel like a lot of the story wouldn't work as well if you didn't have 7, because 7 kind of gives you like the new cast. And then for 8, they also bring back like some characters from like the older games. They give you like enough context where I feel like you don't need a lot of stuff. But I feel like a lot of that emotional like payoff you're gonna miss as well if you haven't played some of the earlier Yakuza games. So I think you don't have to be in a rush. I think with these comic game series, like you can take your time and work your way through.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to literally play every single numbered Yakuza, but yeah, I definitely recommend
The-
playing through Kwame and 7. I think they're both like worth it.
Yeah, 0, Kiwami, and 7 are really good. You can play either of those 3 in like any order you want, but those give you like the bones to tell you what the rest are going to be like and have a lot of the characters set so you can kind of jump around.
All right.
So so yes, you can jump right into 7.
Good to know. Good to know.
I mean, that's also kind of how their whole marketing was too. That's why they like changed it from Yakuza to Like a Dragon, because that's what it's called in Japan. It's always the Like a Dragon, which it is 7 in Japan. It's like a Dragon 7, but then in the US they're like, oh no, it's not Yakuza 7, it's Like a Dragon 1, and this is a good place to jump in. Like, definitely, and it really is a good place to jump in.
Cool. Can we pull up some of the other nominees?
Oh yeah, I probably should do that.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I don't
Is
even
there any
know.
games that should have been nominated but weren't, basically?
Well, I mean, if you're asking me, if DLCs are included, the Factorio expansion should just sweep all of it. I don't think.
That's an interesting point because I feel like the only reason Balatro is here because it's like a generational type of like once every 5 years type of indie game. But it's kind of unfortunate. It takes a game of that magnitude to make it to the like best game of the year when I feel like there's a lot of other really great indie games. And they're going to be fighting with Balatro, in the trenches in the indie category and stuff like that too, or like the view category. Like there's just like a lot of stuff where I kind of wish we had more opportunities to highlight like smaller like indie stuff because there's a lot of like really cool games. And I feel like the Game Awards doesn't really I don't know, maybe I'm like more well read. I could do like some marketing research, but like I feel like most of these games are like fairly well known. You're not getting like an Oscar situation where you don't know what the reader is or something like that.
Right. That's why I was saying like it is just like they pick whatever's talked about and that's what gets nominated. For these at least, which I don't have I'm not like against that. I just does mean I don't really take these with a grain of salt. Or I do take whatever. I just don't put too much stock into the Game Awards.
And yeah, it's not supposed to be like a curation type thing, but it's a shame that like this is one of like the biggest kind of like platforms to talk about the games industry, and it's just so focused on like the biggest titles instead of like just kind of like showing like the wealth of like all the different game experiences you could have this year. So I just wish there was like more opportunity.
Yeah, because there's a bunch of categories, but it's like all the same stuff being nominated for all the categories.
Yeah.
There's not really surprises if you go through them all. And even then where it's like, oh, why could it win? And the first thing they say is like the Metascore of these games.
Yeah.
Because
another game I thought was going to get Game of the Year, I thought Helldivers was going to get on here.
For sure. There was a lot of those like live service stuff that kind of exploded right at the beginning of this year that don't seem to have the staying power. Because we had Helldivers, Pal World, Enshrouded.
It's still pretty popular in my mind. I still play it from time to time. It's still like it's still really fun, honestly. All the stuff they've added has been good. They've done like a major balance patch. I want to say like earlier in the fall that was like really great. Like it like the kind of like experience it like kind of brings me back to like Left 4 Dead and stuff like that. It was like an amazing co-op experience. Yeah, and it was like just cool being part of that like moment when it like launched too and stuff like that. And I felt like it's a shame it's not here at the very top because for me it's like it was like a huge like game moment this year, both personally and I feel like across like a lot of different players for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not even much of a multiplayer guy to be honest, but I've played a few matches with my brother, and I really enjoyed Helldivers too.
Oh yeah, it's a good party game that like they don't seem to be in the weeds with like, oh, like we're gonna be like hyper competitive or we want everyone to only be playing the max difficulty. Like it seems like they know what kind of game it is, who their audience is, and there's stuff for everyone to play in. Like you want to go in on the Helldiver difficulty and like be sweaty with your coordinated group of 4 and get max rewards. You can do that if you want to just jumping with randoms and make people mad because you suck at the game and you're just like blowing stuff up. It's great for that too. But like it never feels like you're being punished for not being sweaty at it. A lot of live service games can. And I think that goes to a long way of its staying power and why everyone enjoys it. Why I enjoy it at least. Even though I haven't actually played it in a few months. How do we feel about DLCs being eligible for Game of the Year?
Yeah, I'm not. But then again, when I think of DLC, my brain just sort of automatically goes back to like Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, where it was just basically like side mission slash, new areas to explore.
Yeah.
Whereas it seems like DLC nowadays is slowly drifting into like quasi sort of half game add-ons.
Yeah, I mean that's always been the case, right? There's always been a difference between like, I don't actually have an example of a bad one off the top of my head, but like the one I always go to is like Diablo 2 Lord of Destruction, where it's almost essentially an entirely different game over Diablo 2. But its market's like the exact same thing. It's just like an extra thing, some new classes, but I guess depending
I
on
think
the...
I think it's changed actually. I think like it's less about like the add-on mission pack style, and it's more about like creating like a second kind of like game experience because you almost have to sell. It's like almost making like another game that goes alongside the first one. I think it's just because of like I've worked in the games industry. Like when you're selling like an episode of something, your target audience is only the people who have bought your stuff. So that's the reason why a lot of like big AAA stuff doesn't necessarily do like a ton of like DLC if they don't have like the support for it for like single player games. So I think like that's been a change to make like more like standalone or like kind of like independent stuff that's almost like an entirely different game but gets to use like the assets and all the previous work from like the previous game.
So yeah,
Yeah, so I guess like if the DLC sort of fits that category where it is more of that standalone experience, then I guess I'm okay with it. Just as long as that experience is comparable to like an actual game.
well, the thing is, if done well, or depending on the goal of the DLC, the expansion, the extra content, it really does change and recontextualize the base game as well. Like just the flow of the game, like how much time you're spending in, what different stuff you're using in the game. Like the whole thing kind of changes. Something like Shadow of the Erd Tree, yes, you have to play through most of the same Elden Ring, but then you go through this new content, and then Elden Ring's big, and FromSoft games are big on the new game pluses and the replays with that same character. So now you're going back through that, and you have new stuff. It doesn't matter how substantial that stuff is, which is a different weapon, different, but it's now changing how you're approaching the rest of the game with its existence. And I think that can, in times, do enough to justify it feeling like an entirely different game to be like, okay, now this is game of the year. I think it depends. Like everything. I don't think every DLC should be eligible, but I think big ones that really do add enough and shake up the game should. Because like you were saying with Lamont and chat here talking about with the ARPGs, like I was talking about Diablo 2 Lord of Destruction. Like just the existence of another act now changes the pace of the entire game, and it's a completely different game now. Just like what level you're going to be at different spots, how much stuff you're going to have at different spots. It's just, they really can change the entire game. But like Horse Armor probably doesn't. But then if you were to tell me Oblivion got Game of the Year, but then Oblivion with all of the DLC, including Chivalry Niles as Game of the Year, I could see that being like a separate conversation because they are two different games at that point.
Yeah, that's fair.
So that's how I feel about it. Is that it depends on the DLC. So I'm pro letting them in for contention.
All right.
And I don't think this is a bad one to do it with. Because that kind of sets the bar.
So Calvin, so you have played Shadow of the Erd Tree?
No, I have not played Shadow of the Erd Tree. I know I said a lot of stuff about DLCs and how much it changes, but no, I haven't played it. I haven't got it yet. That's kind of
that would have been like Charlie talking about that.
Yeah, because he played it, Rob played it. But that's kind of just going off my experiences with every other DLC that FromSoft has put out.
Gotcha.
Like playing Dark Souls. I'm playing Dark Souls Prepare to Die Edition with the DLC is much different. Dark Souls 2 with its DLCs are much different. Those are some of the best ones they made. Same with Bloodborne even. Like the old Hunters, with the addition of the new weapons and how in-depth they are and just the length of content, because Bloodborne's kind of short, So if Shadow of the Erdtree is anywhere near as good as, I mean, they just get better and better. So I agree with it. I don't even like Dark Souls 3, but I like Ash. Its 2 DLCs more than Dark Souls 3 itself. It's a safe bet. I think it's just a safe bet. If you like it, it's more Elden Ring. If you didn't like it, it's more Elden Ring. So yeah, it's Game of the Year nominees. Did any of us play Astrobot?
I did actually.
Yeah.
How is it?
It's really great, honestly. Like it's really fun. It's just like very like celebratory of like games, and there's also just like a toy quality where it's just enjoyable to move around the level and to like hit things with your character and stuff like that. Like it's like kind of like fun to like press the buttons, and it like leverages like the DualSense controller really well. It like never overstays its welcome. It's like very tight. It's a short game, but it's like very tight in how it introduces a new mechanic and lets you play around with it and stuff. So it was like just really cool
Because it's
to
just like a
play through it.
full-on,
Yeah.
like old-ass style, like 3D platformer, right?
It's like if you've played the previous Astrobot game, like they released for PS5, like the PS5 demo essentially.
Yeah.
They made like a full fleshed game, and there's even like challenge levels because it is like more like family oriented, like a kids game.
Yeah.
They have like harder challenge levels and stuff like that, and secrets, and like there's like a lot of levels where they're not so much as the jumping challenge is like unraveling like a puzzle, like a hide and seek kind of thing. It was just like really fun, and it was just like, wow, if they could like make this like a series, like a consistent series. Like, so I thought Sony did like an amazing job delivering it, especially with they have levels based off certain Sony games. So like you'll go to God of War and you'll play as like Kratos Astrobot and like experience the God of War levels, but through the Astrobot filter. And you do the same with like Uncharted and a few other games.
That's
So like
awesome.
that was like really awesome. It's almost like kind of like doing like a Lego version of something, but it was like through the Astrobot lens.
How do you feel?
It was just a really great game, and it was like a fun, like concise experience where you can like finish it in like 10 hours and just like hit everything.
Do you feel that Astrobot is cannibalizing and gruesomely eating Little Big Planet's legacy with Sony?
That's interesting because I don't have any like feelings really towards Little Big Planet. I feel like Little Big Planet is like in a different space where like wasn't it more of like leveraging the PS3's online capabilities to like make and design levels and stuff like that?
Yeah, but you know,
and then the
even like
developers
Sackboy's
needed-
got a lot of like different costumes and stuff. Like he was already like a 3D platformer built to
Right.
celebrate 3D platformers.
But I just feel like they have like different goals in a sense where like Astrobot is about being like this like we this is like handmade artisanal platforming that we
Yeah.
made, and it's like very
And
celebratory of
Little Big
like,
Planet has a handmade artisanal aesthetic because everything's like stitched and crafts and stuff.
right.
Right.
Yeah, but I think part of what happened though is the developers of Little Big Planet, Media Molecule, they moved on to this project. I don't know if you guys have played it, called Dreams.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I did play Dreams.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, so like they basically, like, to Tyler's point, like they really like expanded upon that concept of like creating your own level to like letting people create their own games. So I think that I think they basically left that space, and then Sony just essentially filled it with Astrobot. So unfortunately,
That's
I
that's what I'm saying. It
I
feels
don't
like it's a
yeah.
Sony branded, legally distinct. But
I just
for a
I
good
don't
thing,
think we're
you know?
gonna yeah, I don't think we're gonna see any more Little Big Planet, unfortunately.
Yeah. It'd be like it just feels like it'd be like Nintendo just deciding to randomly make a new like platforming mascot. But I guess they, like I said, with the developers, it's not like Sony owned Little Big Planet, even though they kind of do. I don't know how that works. I'm sure like they own the company that owns the rights, or maybe they own the rights to Sackboy. Maybe Sackboy's just not popular. They just needed a new hip direction.
Although they did make that Sackboy Big Adventure game for PS5, which I completely forgot about until just now.
I think you can get a Sackboy skin as Astrobot. But like Sackboy's already kind of like a sack, so it's like the sack sewn over Astrobot, like that One Piece fruit where you wear the other guy's a jacket.
Oh, maybe we will see
jacket
more
fruit.
Sackboy. I don't know.
I don't know, because there's also a Bloodborne like Astrobot costume, and not going to see more Bloodborne from Sony.
It is interesting too because Astrobot is like one of their Japanese studios that worked on it, like Team Asobi.
Okay.
And they don't do like we don't see as many like kind of like Japanese like first party studio games from like Sony Studios anymore. It'd be cool to see like more, yeah, because there's like they've had stuff in the past, but it hasn't done well like financially,
right.
like Tokyo Jungle and like the Gravity Rush stuff. Like I love Gravity Rush, but apparently like it just didn't sell very well.
Yeah, I mean Tokyo Jungle I don't think was a financial success either. Or maybe it was. I don't know how much money it took.
There's also a thing where you make money on a project, but you don't make enough money to really kind of like make it worth reinvesting in.
Yeah.
So that's why there's a lot of like AAA developers that are pushing for like really big, like longer projects because it's like easier to like when you hit big, you know you invest big, so you hit big. It's a lot harder to take like smaller projects, and even if they are successful financially, is to like then pivot that and like make a sequel because you're not making as much money off like the individual games, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But with like with the Astrobot success, like I do hope they kind of like invest in that, you know, in that studio and other studios like Japanese studios as well now.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think it only has to be Nintendo to do this kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, because you know, like Nintendo, like their platformers are, you know, always, you know, spectacular. But you know, on the other hand, they aren't exactly taking advantage of modern hardware. So I think it would be nice to see, you know, one of their competitors that invests more so in hardware.
That's one
to,
where it's
fill that gap.
It's interesting to say because like I feel like they're focusing on maybe it doesn't count as hardware and game design, but they're a lot more about like using the peripherals and like the different design space that comes in with like the different Nintendo consoles. So like yeah, they may not juice it with power, but they think like, okay, what does you holding a Switch do for this game? And they like incorporate that into games that they don't really do in Nintendo or Xbox or PC. Even if it's just something little like, oh, hold your Switch upside down to evolve the squid Pokemon.
Yeah, I guess hardware wasn't a great word. I guess I am more so talking about like graphical power.
But also, I would say Astrobot does that as well because the whole big thing about it is the controller,
right?
And how it leverages like the fidelity of the haptics and the audio and stuff like that. Like that all plays a part.
That's something where
for sure
I was hoping a lot of games would use more, but it really feels more like the Wiimote or like the Wiimote speaker or the Dreamcast memory card screen.
It's just hard to invest in that in general if you're making a game that's gonna hit like PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. If you spend your development resources on something that's only gonna work on a DualSense controller, you're missing like a certain amount of your audience, you know, versus like spending money on something that's gonna hit all of your audience. So I think it's a lot harder for third parties to like kind of like engage in that.
It definitely
I was
makes sense.
surprised with this is on the most anticipated list, Monster Hunter Wilds.
Yeah.
I thought it actually uses the DualSense really well. It was like really cool. Like how it uses the audio component.
Oh,
it was awesome. It was like really immersive. Like the I turned all the audio off, so I only had the controller audio and just hearing like all the little touches they add during combat, like when a monster goes into the sand and you hear it on the controller and stuff like that. Like it was cool hearing like attack cues from the controller and stuff.
That's awesome.
What else? What else do they have for most anticipated?
GTA 6.
GTA 6 is like the other big one. I think those are only two contenders.
I mean, Metroid Prime is gonna have like a large
Metroid Prime
audience
4
as well. I feel like, but unless they show some, I feel like since they've only ever shown like a title card, is that correct? Like we've never seen anything else from the game.
Yeah, I don't think so.
There's just like not enough to anticipate, other than like people would love to have a Metroid Prime 4 versus like Monster Hunter Wilds, Grand Theft Auto 6. They have trailers. Monster Hunter Wilds is a demo,
And then
so there's like more to sink your teeth into. So there's even more to kind of like anticipate.
Yeah. And then the other ones are Death Stranding 2, which is pretty exciting. And then the Ghost of Tsushima sequel, Ghost of Yotai. Yotai. Also, I'm not going to say that right. Which I like Ghost of Tsushima well enough, but
It's a good game.
It's one of those things where, like, am I mentally excited for another, like, big AAA open world game to come out? I'm not.
But it's interesting because I think a lot of these, except maybe Metroid Prime 4, maybe not even Metroid Prime 4, all these are open world.
I know,
games.
right? I'm saying that as if I'm also excited for
Yeah.
Monster Hunter Wilds to come out.
Which is explicitly now an open world game. Like they have done.
Right.
Yeah.
But Tsushima did a lot of really cool stuff with its open world, where like you're following the wind and you have like animals leading you to places. Like you're not. They tried to make the like breadcrumbs diegetic. I thought that was really cool. Like you can just wander around with the HUD off and still find stuff.
Yeah, all like the activities are really interesting. I feel like they kind of like wear out after a while, but
Yeah,
like the initial like first island, it was just like really.
That's basically
it felt really cool.
I like 100% of the first island. Started the second one and was like, oh, it's just more of this, and I just didn't finish it. But God, it's gorgeous. Yeah, they're all good.
But this is another one where like these are all like really big budget AAA games.
Right.
Where's Slay the Spire 2? Like one of the greatest indies of all time, like a generational. Has launched a genre that has like like over 800 games under it on Steam now. Like like where's the love for Slay the Spire 2?
Path of
That should
Exile
be coming
2?
next year. Also
Path of Exile 2?
Yep, that's another one.
I'm wondering where's the well, I think I know the answer to this, but where's the Metal Gear
Avowed?
Solid Delta
Oh yeah,
remake?
Oh yeah, that's a good question.
Although I think if I understand this correctly, I believe Jeff Keighley is like bros with Hideo Kojima, so I don't know if he's gonna want to.
Interesting. You think they're gonna just talk about Death Stranding instead?
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe he doesn't want to compromise his relationship with Kojima, so he just doesn't want to touch anything Konami.
I mean, I'm not excited for that one as much because, as you know, I don't really like Metal Gear Solid 3 as much as 1 or 2.
Yeah.
That's probably my hottest take, other than not liking Final Fantasy 7. Avowed, a new Obsidian game. That's, I think, the one I'm looking forward to the most coming up next year.
Apparently, that's like a sequel to.
Yeah, it's after Pillars of Eternity 2, but it's not like a continuation of its events. You know what I mean?
It's still pretty interesting though, seeing like two like different style genres sort of set in like the same universe.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a cool setting.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to it. I'm kind of soft on Pillars of Eternity 1. It's really good, but Pillars of Eternity 2 is like one of my favorite games now. So I'm excited for Avowed. I liked the Outer Worlds too. Very solid. It's one, like I was talking about, with the addition of all its extra content that came out after, feels slightly more complete than it does without that. I think there's other issues people have with the Spacer's Choice Edition, but I didn't really look into any of that. I just played it and enjoyed it again.
Yeah, for what it is, it was a great experience.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm looking forward to Avowed a lot next year.
Now that's Microsoft exclusive, right?
Yeah, I believe it'll be PC, Xbox.
Gotcha.
I don't think it's coming to PS5 because they like own Obsidian.
Yeah. Which is kind of a bummer because it's like, what the hell, man? Like I was able to play New Vegas on my PS3,
Well,
you know, and now I can't play more Obsidian games on my PlayStation consoles.
it'll be on Game Pass. You could put Game Pass on your phone and stream it. It's depending on the internet with a USB, just Bluetooth your controller in. It's not the end of the world.
They've also shown they're open to like bringing games over to PlayStation because they've already announced that for Indiana Jones, basically. So I wouldn't be surprised for some other ones. Like I think what's the Bethesda RPG that just came out? What am I thinking?
Starfield.
Starfield, isn't that another one rumored to be kind of like coming?
Yeah,
probably.
I think there were rumors about that a while ago,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know.
Oh, here we go. 3 months ago on r/Avowed. Hi, I'm John Avowed, leader of production. By February 20, Avowed will be released in the PS5 worldwide. Trust.
John Avowed, everybody.
Was that before they pushed the game to next year?
Had to have
that's
been
kind
because
of
it's like March. It's like March. The rest everything.
Yeah, they're supposed to come out this fall, and I think they moved it because of concerns about like a crowded season with Dragon Age and I'm sure like a few other games. So.
Yeah, Starfield expansion, Dragon Age. I don't think anyone actually played the Starfield expansion, if I'm being honest. I even like Starfield. I still haven't asked myself to play it. I own it. Like
My brother's friend, he played Starfield in the most interesting way imaginable.
yeah.
He got up to level 50, and all he did was just farm on planets.
Oh yeah, it's super easy. The last time I played, I just like went to the first I just wandered around outside New Atlantis, picking up plants and rocks and scanning everything, and I was like level 10 by the time I was done.
Oh.
Yeah, it's super easy to do that. Not very exciting, but there's like a whole outpost building thing where you can like chain them together and manufacture resources and that you just don't have to touch, and then all gets wiped when you beat the game anyway. Just like everything else in Starfield, there's a lot of weird, like conflicting things because they like want you to be able to do a whole bunch of stuff, but then like can't commit to any one of them, and so you're just kind of left with a lot of like shallow things that people get mad at or shrug at or enjoy. You know, that's the Todd Howard guarantee that it will be very polarizing on release, no matter what. Except Skyrim, I guess. Skyrim's the only game everyone's like, no, I just like this more than Oblivion. Now that is kind of just dependent on the person, but I think Skyrim was the first and only time Bethesda's released a game where someone wasn't happy. Because people hate Fallout 3, people hate Morrowind, people hate Oblivion, people hate Fallout 4.
Yeah.
Fallout 76 was probably the funniest launch of any game.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's the Game Awards. That's video games. We have one last story to close out this show today, and it's Gus the Penguin. They put him back in the ocean. On November
So this story is the penguin that ended up in
Australia.
Beach in Australia.
Yeah. On November 20th, after 20 days of caregiving, gaining 7.71 pounds and passing multiple veterinarian health checks, Gus was released under guidance of a vet and wildlife officer. The department said in the press release. Yeah, they just took him out to the ocean. I don't know where they didn't take him back to Antarctica.
It's still a mystery how he ended up in Australia.
Yeah. took him out to the sea when he was released. Yeah, they don't know where. You think they like tagged him? Like where's he gonna end up?
Yeah, how do they know? Like,
Why
will
did he
be able to
leave?
find
Like,
his way back?
yeah, like they should have kept him. He gave him a job, given him a house.
But you don't want to run to like cane toad situation in Australia because you don't know, like
There's just one penguin, right? Like how is that gonna get out of control?
Yeah, he's not gonna like reproduce by himself.
then they bring him a lady, and then
Do you think like the
like,
presence of him being there will like send like a hormonal signal, and like his penguin clan will all be like, oh, I suddenly also feel like I need to get up, and then they'll just like follow his
massive
Yep.
penguin invasion of Australia.
Do we know if penguins eat cane toads?
probably like Arctic penguins probably not because they probably don't have amphibians. Probably like too cold, I
Perhaps they eat
imagine.
fish and stuff.
There's very few like amphibians that can live in like really cold temperatures. So
Because like they are carnivorous, right? They eat fish, don't they?
I think.
Never really thought about penguins like that before. But yeah, they eat
are you
fish.
suggesting you're importing the penguins to fight?
Yes,
the
that's what I'm
cane toad
suggesting. Did they
situation?
even like put a cane toad in front of this penguin to see what it did? Maybe that's why they felt like like a calling, like they knew their final fight was in Australia.
I could just imagine the penguin just smacking his flipper right across the fucking cane toad's face.
There is an invasive species in Australia that isn't very destructive. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
It's the camel.
Oh.
Because their feet are like they have like soft padded feet. So like unlike like cattle, which will like disturb the topsoil and cause like a lot of issues with vegetation.
Yeah.
Like camels are like have like light padded feet, so they don't have the hooves that like cause that kind of like damage.
Interesting.
So
Australia
yeah.
doesn't have like a big herbivore. I think it's the kangaroo, right?
well, they've imported like cows and a lot of other.
Well,
Like,
yeah, I meant like naturally.
yeah.
'Cause
But
all
the largest herbivore on. Yeah, I might be the kangaroo. I'd have to do some fact checking because natively, yeah. I can't think of anything else.
Wait, so what does Australia use the camels for?
For like camel stuff, like riding and stuff like
yeah,
that.
like pack animals, beast of burden, camel fur, camel meat,
All right.
camel milk.
Yeah, what do you use camels for? Like,
So I'm like, what would they
That
like?
camel burger tastes good as hell.
Like, well, like, what would they need to like transport that like they couldn't just do with like a horse or whatever?
I don't know. Over like in the outback, where all like the
you're also talking about there's a lot of desert area
yeah.
in Australia as well.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. Like a lot of like the center of Australia.
Oh.
So
Well, the video that's playing here is a moose in Bedford, New Hampshire was trapped in a pool. That's crazy. Alright, watching this moose. Just like got inside. Oh, you guys are behind it on the stream. Scroll up a little bit. There we go.
it's not really stuck. It's just enjoying.
Well, no, it was it was just under the tarp. It's just really funny. It's a little baby too. It's a tiny moose. So someone was like, "Oh, I don't know. We're autoplaying now." Okay. Someone was talking about like Great Lakes, and they're like, deer don't swim in the Great Lakes, and it's like I'm pretty sure deer swim all sorts of places. They're weirdly aquatic animals. Not that
Do they
moose or
swim
deer.
or do they just like
Deer?
they
Yeah, like
just, like,
elk and
walk?
stuff? Yeah, they can swim. I don't
So
know.
like
I don't know
moose
shit
are-
about deer.
Moose are like moose are like huge though. Like
I'm pretty sure
would they
moose...
like swim or do they just kind of like walk across?
No, I think they just like swim.
Oh, they do.
Yeah. Like 60%. I don't know shit about deer or moose, the ungulates. Are moose even ungulates? Is that a cow? I don't fucking know. I don't know. I don't know shit about animals. That's why we're staying current with the current animal facts. Are moose ungulates? Do they swim? Find out next week when we don't have answers to these questions. But that was it. That was our show. I don't have an intro or outro prepared. That was just everything we had to talk about this week. Does anyone have anything they want to add before we unceremoniously stop streaming?
Yes. I hope Metaphor ReFantasio wins RPG of the year because Atlas fucking slaps.
Right. All right.
Best score in music should also go to Balatro for the Balatro song.
The Balatro. I can't even remember it. That's how good it is. I feel like it's like a feeling. It's in your bones now. All right. Well, until next week, Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific.